This morning we have the wonderful privilege and delight of hearing from Sinead, our youth minister, about an update. I'm going to give you an update on the mission trip this past summer and youth ministry in general. So it's got a lot of good news.
Let us pray. God, our Father, you see your children growing up in an unsteady and confusing world. Show them that your ways give more life than the ways of the world, and that following you is better than chasing after selfish goals. Help them to take failure, not as a measure of their worth, but as a chance for a new start. Give them strength to hold their faith in you and to keep alive their joy in your creation. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Good morning. For those who might not know me, my name is Sinead Doherty. I've been a member here at Good Sam for about 25 years, and I've been the youth minister for 7 years this month, which feels like it's been a year or two. I was a little shocked to realize it's been 7. So what I'm going to do this morning is just share a little bit about over the past 7 years, where has youth ministry started at Good Sam, where are we now, and then what have the youth been up to during a really strange, unprecedented year this year. So when I started at Good Sam 7 years ago, this was supposed to be a job for a year or two while I finished college, started grad school. There's no end in sight right now. We're 7 years in and going strong, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And that's why, because you all have been the most supportive parish to work for, and not all of my youth ministry colleagues have that same support behind them and behind their youth. So when I started this job, we were averaging about 2 kids on Sundays. It was pretty low. It was a little disappointing at times, and we really had to pause and rethink and regroup. And now on Sundays, we're seeing 15 to 30 kids, and that includes during the pandemic, which is pretty impressive. And we are seeing kids who are not just coming because their parents are making them, they're coming because they want to be here. So one of the things we did that really sparked the youth group here at Good Sam is we started a Club 4-5, I think it's been 5 or 6 years ago. And those kids are now well into high school. But what that is a mini youth group for 4th and 5th graders. And so they start early, they love youth group then, and then they continue up and they have that community built before they get to high school, before they're on their own and driving. And one of the things I hear people say is, we expect in youth ministry that once kids start driving, they disappear and they stop coming back to church, right? Once they're not with their parents, they can drive themselves, they don't come. That is not what we see here at Good Sam these days. We are seeing kids who are coming even when their parents don't. We have one young man who drives himself an hour each way from the Kentucky border to come to youth group, and he did that every single day of the mission trip this year as well, because that's what this community means to him. So, a little bit of an update on what we've been doing. I was counting the mission trips that I have led over the course of my 7 years here. We went to Charleston, South Carolina. Then we went to St. Louis, Missouri. We went to Montgomery, Alabama, Washington, D.C., Charleston again. Can't miss a mission trip on the beach. And then we've done 2 years in Knoxville. Last year's mission trip was supposed to be to Chicago. Chicago 2020 has turned into 2021 and now 2022, but it's going to happen next year. We're going to get to Chicago. But what we did last year was a 3-day sort of work and service kind of a trip because our kids needed something, even in the middle of the pandemic. And so this year we kind of took that and expanded it. So we did a staycation week in Knoxville, and we treated it like we would any other new city that we were going to. So we started our week off by staying the weekend at Camp Montvale out in Blount County. It's a beautiful property, and so our families were able to stay in cabins and enjoy some swimming and activities and fellowship time. And then we were also able to kick off our week of service with a project there. Harmony Family Center, where I work in the rest of my life, owns Camp Montvale and uses it for therapy camps. And so our youth were able to create from scratch a nature playground for the children and families who come out to Montvale to receive therapy sessions or for therapeutic camps. And so our kids built a wooden play kitchen. They painted all these little rocks to look like fruits and veggies for the kitchen. And they put together picnic tables and stained them. And we had a chainsaw going for hours, cutting down trees and making all of these different things. And it's beautiful. And it has gotten so much use already this summer. And then the rest of the week, we did it staycation style, so the kids went home at night. Our first day, we served at the Sustainable Futures Center in South Knoxville, so the kids were able to get into the dirt, learn about gardening and sustainability initiatives. We had a lot of onions to pick, and some of our kids smelled like onions for days, but it was still a highlight for many. And so we had a really great time there. We also got to serve with Operation Backyard. That is a local nonprofit that our youth have really formed a strong relationship with. Operation Backyard loves the Good Sam Youth Group because we work hard, we're respectful, and they're very, very insightful. They ask good questions, they want to know what we're doing. So during our time with Operation Backyard this year, we were able to make a really big difference. We were serving a family who was at risk of losing their children to DCS custody because they had an unsafe home. That was the only thing standing between this family and losing their children, was the house they were living in. The mobile home was unsafe. You opened the back door and it just dropped off. There was no deck, no stairs. It was a hazard. So in the course of about 4 hours, our youth were able to build a deck, safety railings, and stairs. And 2 of our young people, and then Jeff in the back corner, were here working hard. So we've got some young men back there doing tech today. And they were amazing with drilling and carrying wood and getting everything just right, and we finished the day with a really beautiful product. And if you go on the Good Sam Youth Facebook page, you can see that. And that was a really meaningful experience to be able to help that family close out their case with Child Protective Services that didn't need to happen, right? They just needed someone to come in and help make their home safer for them. So for a lot of our youth, that was a really meaningful way to make a difference. For a sweet little family that we got to meet, so that was day 2. We also got to serve at STAR, the Therapeutic Riding Center. Kristen Sanders from Good Sam works there, and so she was able to give us a tour and really talk about the work that they do using therapeutic riding and equine-assisted therapies out at STAR. And then our youth got to work, and our kids had rags, and they were scrubbing mud off of walls. They did all kinds of amazing manual labor that day. And so we really enjoyed getting to see the horses, getting to hear from Kristen out at her job, and then just getting to serve there. And then we had a lot of other highlights as well. I mean, the whole week was just full of many different activities. We went to South Press, a local queer-owned coffee shop, and were able to have some great conversations around LGBT issues and cultural issues in Knoxville, and also just got to enjoy some treats and time to fellowship together. We spent an evening swimming and doing worship with Father Cal at IAM's Nature Center, just enjoying the sound of cicadas around us. So we got to do a lot of different things, and we got to see all these different parts of Knoxville. We really hit all the various areas like we would if we were going to a different city. So even though we stayed here, it was still really meaningful. And one of the things the youth have asked is that we continue to do more work here in our own community. We do a good amount already, but they really enjoyed seeing how things connected. One of the things we did that just amazed me that our youth were up for was going to The Bottom, which is a Black-owned community center and bookstore. And our kids did an archaeological dig into newspapers from the 50s and 60s, learning about urban renewal, so issues around race and class, and how Knoxville has some really complicated history with moving entire community of Black people out to make way for improvements in the area. Our youth really impressed the sociology professor who ran that day for us. So they were doing research on their day off in the summertime. They brought their laptops. They were asking good questions. They're still asking good questions about what we learned there. So one of the things that really stands out to me is just a few lines from our psalm this morning. The works of his hands are faithfulness and justice. All his commandments are sure. They stand fast forever and ever because they are done in truth and equity. When I think about our youth at Good Sam and what the point of so much of our faith formation activities here are, it's really being rooted in faithfulness and justice. You can't separate the two, and our youth are so good at asking really insightful questions and really digging deep. Why is this issue happening here? How can I help? How does my faith compel me to help with these issues? And that's something that a lot of the agencies we have volunteered with this summer commented on, is these aren't just kids who are here to get some service hours or some kids who are here because their parents made them. They're here because they genuinely care and they want to take what they learn here and go back and do things with this information. And service in general is just a huge focus of our youth group here at Good Sam. It always has been, and it continues to grow. Even during the pandemic, we were able to do a whole lot of different service projects and really rooting our faith in that, right? Serving others and going out into the community. Youth group at some churches is kind of off to the side, having some pizza once a month and, doing fun games. That's not what our kids are here for. They're here for the real stuff. So, one of the things that I would challenge you all to do this year is really to find a way to connect with our youth group. So I think often I come, or you see posters or flyers asking for donations to the youth group, and that's great. We always need those. It's always appreciated. But this has been a really tough year to be a teenager. It's hard to live through a pandemic as adults, but teenagers are supposed to be going out and figuring out who they are, going out and busy, doing all of these different activities, and for most of our youth, all of their things were canceled last year, right? All of the milestone activities, all of the sporting events and the clubs and the hobbies and the trips, it just vanished. And so that is really hard. And now, as we're heading back into what's supposed to be a back to school time of year, there's a lot of anxiety because of masking and because of Delta and all of these other things. So what's supposed to be another happy time is kind of anxiety-ridden for a lot of our young people. And I'm often asked what keeps youth coming to church. And it's not the fun activities or the special events or any of that. It's the relationships they have in this building. That's what keeps people coming. That's why 25 years later, I'm still standing here, is because of the relationships I have with so many of you in this room and so many good Samaritans, right? That's what keeps me coming back. And I think especially going into a second year of pandemic uncertainty, our youth need those relationships. So, I'm not going to ask you for money today, but I am going to ask you for some effort. When you see a young person, whether they're here sitting with their family, serving in some role, or just you run into them out in the world, ask them how they're doing. Ask them what's new. Ask them what they're doing with their youth group. Ask them how school is going. But please, please, please get to know them, their faces and their names, because that is what keeps people here. And I think that is the most important part of our faith formation, is having adults that we connect with in the building. And this fall, our Sunday school faith formation time is going to be intergenerational. You're going to have a really powerful chance to read a book and discuss with fourth grade, our Club 4-5s, all the way through our high schoolers and our adults. And that excites me so much because we are able to come together and form those relationships in very meaningful ways, right? Chance for our youth to hear from you and your wisdom, and for you to hear from them and the questions they have and the ideas they have. So I would challenge you today forward to really find a young person and connect with them, hear how they're doing, and then keep connecting. Because this fall, as wonderful as it is to kind of go back to normal, it's also very scary. And many of our young youth are not even vaccinated, and they're having to navigate a lot of very scary parts of school this year. So check in with them and just make sure that you start to build those relationships, because that's what keeps people here for 25 years. So to close, I would just like to say thank you all. Thank you for your support of our mission trips. We could not do it without you. It's always been so well supported. But thank you also for your support of me in this role. Youth ministers don't stick around for 7 years. That's not what this job is. It's a 1 to 2 year thing. But I am so incredibly well supported here that I can't imagine not doing this. And that is not something that all of my colleagues have the same privilege at other churches. So thank you. That's support, praying and showing up to things and asking how we're doing and what do we need, and offering all of the different ways that you bless our youth group and me. And so just again, I would challenge you all as you leave today and moving forward, find those young faces and connect with them. Make sure they know your name. Make sure you know theirs. And those relationships will be what get us through this next semester. Amen.
a word or two about how blessed we are by Sinead and her ministry here with us. Many of you will know friends and colleagues maybe that have a church that doesn't have much in the way of active children or youth ministries, and we are absolutely blessed by their presence. And Sinead has done a wonderful job, and part of that success is her sticking around for 7 years, and so we need to continue to support her so she sticks around for a lot longer. Also want to mention, Sinead grew up at the feet of Ann Backus in Sunday school, and Sinead has commented to me several times about how at a diocesan event of some kind where, kids are gathered with kids from around the diocese, how well prepared our kids are. There's a conversation about a Bible story and a question gets asked, our kids are raising their hands, and so we are blessed by all of our children and youth ministries with Ann and Sinead, and this has been just a really strange and weird year and a half or so for all the staff. Freddie, right? Freddie's streaming and beaming and all kinds of other stuff, but all that is to say is thank all your staff for the work that they've done in this time, but especially Sinead and Ann. And as she says, part of what makes this a special place is you all reaching out, knowing some kids' names, welcoming them when they get here. Part of what makes it special is when they show up and they feel like it's not just their folks here, but other people are glad to see them, delighted to see them when they get here. So learn some kids' names and welcome them when they get here. As she said, ask how they're doing. It really makes a difference for them to feel like this is a place that is home. So thank you all. Thank you, Sinead. Thank you, Amy.